Hi, everybody. I wanted to give you a quick introduction to how to do error analysis and show uncertainty in an Excel graph. If you take a look at the worksheet number 1, you need to actually graph this data and actually draw error bars to be able to answer these questions about whether the best line fit actually shows a trend, and if so, what is that trend? So take this data and you very quickly put it into Excel. I've already copied over here. Graphing it, not a problem at all. We're just going to again highlight the first two columns, say Insert, Chart, and again our favorite XY scatter. And there it is, not too bad. You can see the data points, it's done a fairly good job. Remember, we always want to go ahead and add a horizontal and a vertical axis title. And remember, by default, Excel always puts the first column on the horizontal axis. So this will be time in seconds. And the second column we graph automatically in the vertical column. So this will be displacement in meters. The title, again, remember, is always the vertical versus the horizontal variable. So this graph is going to be titled displacement versus time. Now, if you look at this data real quick, you can very quickly highlight it, right-click on it and say Add Trend Line, and we can very quickly say we want a linear trend line, automatic. We'd like to display the equation on chart, and optionally you can put an R-squared value on it as well. In this case I won't, because I know it's not a very good fit. I'll get rid of that real quick. And then just changing our quantities here real quick. This should be displacement. The X here should actually be, I'll put this in parentheses. Oops. Our X variable, or the variable on the horizontal axis, is time. And we got a y-intercept as well. And whoops, I don't want to undo that part. Let me just move this formula over someplace a little more convenient. So displacement and time are our variables. They take the place of X and Y. I'm going to make them bold here. And to put units in here that are somewhat reasonable, the slope here is going to have units of meters over seconds. So meters over seconds for the slope here. And our y-intercept, because it intercepts here on this axis, is going to have units of meters. And just to kind of clarify and make it a little bit easier to see what are variables and what's not, I'm going back here to home. I'm going to make my slope and y-intercept blue, just to make so you can sort of see that those are constants, not variables. All right, so there's my formula. Now the question is, how do you add the uncertainty lines? If you go ahead and click back on your data points, and I guess I have to go back to chart design, we're going to add a chart element. And one of the ones we haven't used before are error bars. And we really don't want a standard error. We don't want a percentage or a standard deviation. We want to actually do this a little more custom. So we're going to say more options. And you'll see it says format error bars. We want these error bars to be both directions, both positive and negative, because we got plus or minus 0.1 meters as our error. I usually like leaving a cap. And we want it to be a fixed value. And our fixed value, these readings are accurate to plus or minus 0.1. And if you go ahead and press enter there, it should actually make them a little bit smaller. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and close that. You'll notice by default it also adds horizontal ones, which really we don't want. It has horizontal error bars saying, hey, your data is plus or minus 1 second, because that's where we took each data. If you right-click on that and say Format Error Bars, this time it'll be the horizontal ones. And unfortunately, you can't just say turn it off, but what we can do is say, hey, make this a fixed value of 0. And now, that's a little bit more tolerable. There's our trend line, here's our data points, and it's looking pretty good. I'll go ahead and close that. So we really didn't want horizontal error bars, just our vertical ones. You'll notice one small issue here. When we put the original error bars in here, it shifted our axes here. So our data is all here at the top. You can actually fix that real quick. If we double click these numbers over here, you can set the minimum. In this case, I'm going to go with 0.8. And that makes our data a little bit more reasonable. So we've got our formula, we've got our error bars, here's our graph, and now you can start answering some questions. Now, a couple quick warnings about this. Is this the only possible trend line? So here's the trend line that we calculated. Is that the only possible trend line that would fit within these error bars? It's the best fit to our data points, but could you fit a horizontal line through our data that would still be within our error? The answer is yeah, you sure could. In fact, you might even be able to fit in a line that goes downward if you look at it, if you start really close to the top there and go to the bottom. And so you can start answering some of these questions. But hopefully that gets you to the point where you can sort of say, okay, yeah, I can figure out how to do this graph and how to do the error bars. Good luck. Have some fun with this. Talk to you soon. Bye.